Hi friends, welcome to my very first floss tube. My name is Barb. I live in Western New York, just outside of Buffalo, New York, and I am jumping on this bandwagon. Let me give you a little bit of history about myself. I have been a seamstress for over 50 years. It's a long time. It's a long time to work with a needle. I did for years bridal work. I made wedding dresses, designed them, formal wear, christening gowns, all kinds of things like that. When my kids were little, I made their clothes, especially my daughter. I do have 4 kids, adult children. I always call them kids. I do have 4 adult children, and my daughter always had her clothes made for her, dresses, gowns, whatever she needed. My boys, on the other hand, they were, jeans and t-shirts kind of kids. But I did make all of their clothes for the longest time. While I was sewing, I used cross stitch as my relaxation. In the evening, put the kids to bed, pick up my cross stitch. To be very honest with you, I don't even remember when I started cross stitching. I know I cross stitched and crocheted 9-10 years old. So I've always worked with a needle. It was my Nana who was a seamstress, and she was one of the ones that really inspired me to start sewing. And I basically taught myself. I never took any formal classes. I learned by trial and error, and it got to the point, as I said, I had progressed so far that I was designing and making wedding dresses. I also did some consignment work for a couple bridal shops in my area here. But I pretty much stopped that type of work in the 90s. There's reasons behind it. It got to be a very difficult field in which to work. Not that I didn't love my clients, but when they say a couple of bad apples can spoil the whole bunch, well, that was that. So I took my love of cross stitch, and I also had developed a love of quilting, because that also became my second relaxation technique. It was either cross stitch or quilting. So I started to develop my quilting love, and just went to town with that. Currently, I am a long arm quilter. I do quilt for clients. I love quilting for my clients, and it also allows me to pet all the pretty fabrics that I can't. I have no more room for fabrics here. Although I say that, and then I buy more, whatever it is. So I've worked with a needle, as I said, for well over 50 years, and thoroughly enjoyed all of the areas in which I work. I've done a little bit of wool applique, not a lot. I am a very traditional quilter, as evidenced by some of my quilts behind me. I love Kim Deal fabrics. I love Kim Deal patterns. I'm also a very big fan of Lori Holt, and it was Lori Holt who got me into this floss tube arena. I had a client who mentioned to me the one time about Flosstube. Do I watch Flosstube? And this was before COVID. Isn't it funny how we refer to everything now as, before COVID or after COVID? So this was before COVID. She had brought a quilt over for me to work on, and we started talking about cross stitch, and she says, "Oh, do you watch Flosstube?" I had no idea what that was. So, she gave me a little bit more information, and while I was on YouTube, I was looking up some Lori Holt videos, and one of her videos, her sewing videos, mentioned her floss tube, and I said, "What is this floss tube?" So I went and looked, and I was just enamored by the stitching that Lori Holt was doing, the cross stitching that Lori Holt was doing, and she had mentioned Brenda and Laura, the cereal starters. So I said, okay, I got time, right? So I went to look for Brenda and Laura, and holy cow, that was a whole rabbit hole there. I watched one of Brenda and Laura's videos and then literally stopped and went all the way to the beginning and watched their first one and binged every single one. And I experienced their highs and their lows when they were so excited about talking about going to the attic in the fall of 2019, and how they were going to go to the attic in 2020, and then we all know what happened there. also experiencing Brenda's illness and her recovery from that. So they also encouraged me to watch Sarah from Sarah's Stitchy Spot when they announced that she had done her first floss tube. I was like, okay, I gotta go. Well, there was another one. I do not miss any of Sarah's videos. If you get the chance to watch her, she is wonderful. She is a retired women's physician and just a lovely, lovely person. She is also doing Zoom meetings, and she picks 10 people from her FlossTube comments and schedules a Zoom with them. And I've been fortunate enough to sit in on, or to be invited to one of those Zoom sessions. And let me tell you, I was just tickled silly. She also has in her Zooms a surprise guest. And the Zoom that I was included in, the monogamous Karen, the monogamous Karen, the recovering monogamous stitcher, was invited to attend, and she is also somebody that I follow and watch. Karen is also a quilter, so at the end of Karen's videos, she does talk about a current quilt that she has on display, and I thoroughly enjoy her stitching as well. Now these women, oh, and one more, Carol Saltbox Stitcher. She's another one. If you don't follow Carol, and I think everybody follows Carol, right? These women and the samplers and things that they stitch are just incredible to me. Personally, I've done some samplers, and, you know, as I said, I've been cross-stitching since, I don't know, the 70s, right? I've done samplers. I've never really done a reproduction sampler. I don't know why. Maybe at the time they just didn't speak to me, but I have stitched some samplers. For the most part, I go back and forth between larger pieces, to me, larger pieces, and then those quick projects that you can get done and have at the ready for a holiday. I love mixing things up, and the same as with my quilts. I love to do large traditional quilts, but I also like to do the small quick table runners, because sometimes we just need that immediate satisfaction, gratification, something that we are working on, or, you know, we're working on a large project and I've got to walk away from it and work on something small because I need to see something finished. Okay, that's me. That's how I am. I like to have many projects going. I don't even know how many actual whips I have. I did sit down the other day and log some things in my book of days for 2024. And these were some things that I carried over from 2023 that I really wanted to focus on in 2024, and some of them I haven't even touched. And that's okay, because at the end of this year, there is one project that I'm working on that I started. It might have been 2020, it might have been 2021, and it's a temperature galaxy, and I'm going to show that at a later date. But I don't care for it any longer, and I'm going to look at it and re-examine and figure out what I can do with it. And you know what? It's okay if you start something that you have fallen out of love with. That's okay. I have taken a few things this year that I started and turned them into something else because I knew I wasn't going to stitch on them any longer. Actually, some of those things I've posted on my TikTok channel, and I do have a TikTok channel under my business name, which is SoSheSewsAndQuilts. Yes, it's a tongue twister. And I remember sitting here one New Year's Eve saying, you know what, let's try to figure out a name. No, I did not have any alcoholic beverage in me at the time. Okay, but same with my YouTube name here. Yes, it does refer to sewing, but I'm going to use this channel. My YouTube channel is Flosstube, and I'm also going to put on some quilting things because I have the channel. I may as well use it, right? So if you do look for me on TikTok, you will see some of my cross-stitch videos and cross-stitch things that I've worked on there. I'm also on Instagram, and I do have a Facebook page for my business, but I really haven't posted anything over on my Facebook page in a long time. I'm finding that that's not the avenue where people are looking for me. So Let me go into what I have here now that I've given you a little bit of background, and I'm sure that I will pop things in here and there, and you're always welcome to ask questions because that's how we learn from each other. So let me go over just a few of my whips. I've only pulled out a few because I don't know how long this video is going to be, and I'm trying to make it comfortable for myself. So the first one that I'm going to pull out here is the Maker and Mender, and this is by Brenda Gervais. And I started this a year ago with a stitchy friend of mine, and we were going to make this our Sunday stitch. And if you do follow Lori Holt, she does talk about Sunday stitches. Well, unfortunately, this is all I have on my Maker and Mender. Now, I do not iron my pieces, nor will I iron my pieces to show. I iron them when I'm ready to frame them or finish them, okay? So you will see them unironed. You will see them with folds. You might even catch a dog hair or two because I have 2 English Labs and I have a cat, okay? You will see my pieces with needle and thread because no, I don't remove my needle from my stitched work. I do put it off to the side. The last time I looked, there are no cross-stitch police in my home, nor are there quilt police. I do what works for me, and I'm okay with that. Have I found whips that are 20-some years old with needles in them and maybe a smidge of rusting on there? Yeah, I have. I think the needle qualities now are a little bit better. And so yes, I do put them off to the side. So this is Maker and Mender by Brenda Gervais. She is, we all know Brenda too, and we know what she designs. This is the pattern, well, part of it. Okay, Maker and Mender. This particular bag that I'm using is a bag that I got from Fat Quarter Shop when I was in their cross stitch club. It was a great club, but it just wasn't doing it for me. I also have started using tags on my bags. I found these tags. I don't know if they're name tags or luggage tags or whatever. I did it on the Amazon shopping, okay? They actually come with little cards that I just wrote the name of my project on. I know some people, and I believe Karen, Recovering Monogamous Stitcher, does this where she'll take a picture and she'll put it on there. Now, I do have the camera that does that, but I'm not happy with the quality of the picture that comes out. So for me, I know Maker and Mender. What I also do is use the library cards. Now, I know Lori Holt talks about this. These I also found on Amazon. So I will mark down what it is that I'm stitching. I'll put it into this little envelope and I keep it in my stitching bag. And then when I go to finish the project, if it's a big enough project, I will mount it to the back of my piece. So this, as I said, I started the 1st of October in 2023. I am stitching on 28 count Oaken Lugana by Picture This Plus. I'm using 1 strand over 2 threads. I'm using all the called for DMC, Weeks, Gentle Arts, and Country Classic flosses. And I love these colors. As you can see by the quilts behind me, I am very much a fall color. They're very pretty, and I do really, really like them. Now, I know some of you probably cringed when I said I'm stitching on 28 count with 1 thread over 2. I prefer to stitch with 1 thread. If I'm working on Aida, I will use 2. If I'm working on linen or Lugana, I use 1. And personally, I like the softer look. I don't like the bold, shocking look. And maybe that's not even the right terminology. But to me, I like it to be a little bit more muted. And looking at these 1 over 2, for me, I find it very, very soft. Okay? That's my preference. If you choose to use 2 threads on 28 count, that's absolutely fine. As I said, there are no cross-stitch police here, and there are no quilt police here. I'm going to do what I enjoy. So that's one of my whips. The next one is Chester's Place, and I'm sure many of you have, maybe you've worked on Chester's Place. And I'm going to just stop here for 1 second. I don't know how this is going to read in the video, if it's going to read backwards or not. I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be editing my videos, not to start with, because I don't know how. So if this reads backwards, I am sorry. I'm also going to try to put notes in. I don't know how to do that. If you have any questions, please message me, comment below. I will definitely respond to you. So Whistle Stop Stitcher Designs designed Chester's Place, and I believe it was done as a fundraiser for a kitty cat that needed some medical treatment. And from what I understand, and this is just from me listening in our Flosstube family, that the goal was met and then some. Now, I am, as I said, a dog owner. I have English Labs, and I refer to myself as an English Lab snob. Okay, they are my most favorite breed. I am on dog 6 and 7 of my English Labs. And the reason I am stitching this, I had a 13-year-old lab pass a year ago. And I also had a 7-year-old pass 2 years ago. She was my heart dog. She died from kidney disease. She was diagnosed at the age of 3, and she lasted 4 years. And I'm going to tell you why, because I listened to my vet. Now, how was it discovered? 2 of my dogs at that time, Maisie, who was my 7-year-old at the time, and Pip, who was a month older than her and actually her uncle. So Maisie and Pip, I took them to my local emergency veterinary hospital to become blood donors. And yes, dogs and cats are blood donors. So they had a complete physical and workup and everything else, and Pip passed with flying colors, and Pip was a blood donor doggo. He did donate blood to help other dogs. Maisie, it was determined, had some medical issues, and I also worked part-time at an emergency veterinary clinic. And when I took my dogs in to have this testing done, I was told, hey, we know you work at another local emergency vet. You might want to take your girl in and have her examined. So I took her into work and had one of my respected veterinarians look at her and do some more work. And it was determined at the age of 3 that she had kidney disease. Now, I didn't do any genetic testing. I didn't do anything like that because it wasn't going to change. It wasn't going to change her diagnosis. But my veterinarian said to me, she needs to be on a special diet and she cannot have any more treats. No more food type treats, dog type treats, okay? No more cookies, things like that. Vegetables, you know, my dogs get mostly vegetables for treats anyways. But because I listened to my veterinarian and I followed her advice strictly, my girl lasted 4 years, okay? So I am doing this, I know, a long story short here, I am doing this in honor of all of my labs. And yes, I have a cat. Her name is Esther. She's actually across the room there. She's a tortie, and she has somewhat of a smidge of an attitude. But mostly this is going to be for my dogs. So I'm going to rechart the bottom of this because this does have, looks like a horse and sheep and chicken and bunny and stuff like that. But I'm going to change this when I get down to that part and just do dogs. And I'm going to turn them around a little bit. I'm not 100% certain yet because I haven't gotten that far. What I have on this right now is, this is where I'm at with my stitching. I'm working on the house. So I'm doing the framing of the house with the white, and then I will do my fill-ins. Now this, I am using Aida, and this is a natural Aida, so I am working with, oh wait, let me get my card and see what I'm doing. Okay, no, I didn't write it down yet. But I do have it on my notes. I am doing, I am using 18 count Aida. And I am using 1 strand of floss on this because it is 18 count, but it is a natural Aida, and I do really enjoy that. I pulled it from Stash. I am using the called for DMC, because when I looked at this, I mean, it does have overdyes that it calls for, but when I choose, when I want to go back and forth between DMC and overdye, I look at what the pattern is, and if there's a lot of stitching in an area, then I'm going to use the overdyes. This, you know, was not, and even the house on here, I might use the overdye when I get to the house, or the stitching on the house. I'm not 100% on it yet. Okay, but that's my Chester's place. Knock something on the floor. The next stitch I'm working on is called the New Gobbletons. Okay, now this is by Autumn. Now I know that there's a bunch in the series. There's Halloween, there's Gobble Snow. This is just what's on the back of the pattern. Now, when I chose to do this, of course, I was influenced by somebody on somebody on Flosstube, and I went ahead and I bought the Gobble Pumpkin Fabric by Fabric Flair. When I went and started this, which I actually just started a little bit ago, a couple months ago, I didn't realize how this was going to sit on here. Now, looking at this, you can see that I'm going to have all of this empty space at the top. That is going to be way too much to frame. So I'm already thinking that I'm going to make it into a wall hanging. Okay, that'll be absolutely fine because this is not going to be hung for a good portion of the year. But I don't want it to be just here, okay? I do want to have a good portion of the pumpkin on this. So what I'm thinking of doing is taking that empty space and looking for some lettering, and I know there's no lack of lettering, to say maybe thankful or happy Thanksgiving or whatever. I have no clue, but I'm going to fill all of this space up at the top here, all up in this area, with some type of lettering after I get the girl done. Now, I started working on her. She's, there's her little feeties down here. It's really cute. It's going very quickly. What I am discovering is that I love Quakers. And I think part of the reason I enjoy this so much is that the motifs are small. And I feel like I've accomplished something as I'm going through here. I am using all of the called for. I am really enjoying this stitch. It's not going to get done this year, especially when I started and realized that maybe I could have started it up a little bit higher. But it is what it is. It is a lot of fun. I love the colors on it. I am, as I said, using all of the called for colors. And I did find, now I don't generally use needle minders, and I mostly stitch in hand. I don't know if I mentioned that yet. But on Aida and on Lugana, I do stitch in hand. I will use a hoop for linen because I'm finding that some of the linen is very loose. And this is a big change for me because years and years and years ago when I started stitching, I was a big hoop girl. Okay, I thought that, you know, everything had to be in a hoop. So when I started, I did purchase some Nerd hoops. I don't really care for them. I'm using them on linen, but for the most part, you know, something like this or Chester's Place, or actually everything I'm going to show you today, I am stitching in hand. But I could not resist. Look at this little needle minder. What does this remind you of? Right? The cookies. Now we all know that cookies don't come in these. This is a sewing box. Okay. So I did find this needle minder on Amazon because I saw it somewhere on somebody's stitching and had to go hunt it down, and I found it on Amazon. Now the top actually comes off of this. And I know that some people have put little things in here. You know, it does have a nice magnet on it. And because I am using a magnetic board, let me just take my pattern off of here for the moment. I am using a magnetic board when I do stitch this. And these boards I did find on Amazon, relatively inexpensive. And the needle minder will obviously hold my pattern on. Now I did buy a bunch of these magnetic boards. I also use them down in my quilt studio when I'm working on certain patterns. So that is my little Gobbletons. I'm enjoying that stitch. And again, as I said, it's not going to get done this year. And that's okay. I'm not in a hurry for that. The next piece that I want to show you, I was 110% influenced by Lori Holt for this piece. 1 second here. I am also a huge coffee drinker. Black coffee, Colombian coffee, and I'm a coffee snob. I'm a Labrador snob, I'm a coffee snob. But this next piece, I was very much influenced by Lori Holt. When I just watched one of her recent videos, I believe she had this finished. She did have it finished. It is called Americana Red. Now, I suspect if you are a stitcher, you have seen this pattern. I love this. Love this, love this, love this. Now, there is also Americana Blue, which is more geared toward a quilter. I have it already kitted up. I'm going to start that January 1st. But I love this stitch so much that I have said to myself, you know what, let's just do 2 strands a day and work on something else. I can't put this down. Now, I am going to tell you that I am going to make some design changes on this because personally, I do not care for the cherries across the bottom. So I have already made some changes to what I'm going to do with that. And I'm actually going to like it just because. And this is another thing that I have found about Flosstube in these recent years as compared to when I was stitching back in the 80s. It is more than okay to take a pattern and change it, to modify it to something that you are personally going to love. Now, I know that there are a lot of stitchers, when they do reproduction samplers, they stitch it the way the sampler was intended, as it is a reproduction. And that's okay. I am not going to sit here and challenge anybody with their stitching. But when I look at something like this and I say, oh my gosh, I love it, but I want to stitch this, and I can change that but, right? So I have made some changes already, and you can, as soon as I pick this up, you're going to see it. One thing that I did do, it has a date here. It says 22. Well, I changed that. I put my birthday. The other thing that I did was I changed the top of the house. I don't know if that's a house or a barn or what it's supposed to be, but I wanted it to look more like a house. So what I have done, this is not working. I just picked up my bag to hold it here and everything fell out of the bag, which I also want to show you. So let me do this first. Let me get her in the proper position. And as I said, I've already told you, I don't press. And yes, I have needles in my work, okay? So this is what I've done. See how I've changed the top of the house there? I've made it more of a, I made it more of a pointed roof, okay? And then on the date, I'm gonna stand up with this so I can actually see. On the date, I stitched my birthday, December 2nd. Yes, my birthday's coming soon, okay? So this is where I am. I'm just absolutely loving this stitch. It is very, very comforting to finish these motifs quickly. Now, I am stitching in hand. As I said, I prefer to stitch in hand, and I don't have a problem with this. I am laughing, and I mentioned to my husband, usually when I'm stitching at night, my cat decides she wants to sit on my lap. So, of course, there's some cat hair stitched into it. I know some of you might be cringing at that. It is what it is. I am using the Classic Colorworks Licorice Red for this, which is the called for. And I am stitching it on, because I stuck my little sticker on here, 32 count Lugana, Legacy Lugana. And I cannot tell you how much I am enjoying this. I am taking progress pictures of it every day, and I'm just looking so forward to getting to the point where I can do that alphabet, because we know that alphabet goes really, really quickly. The stitching down the side here is a little bit fiddly. It's not difficult, but usually when I look at something like this, and maybe you do too, I want to find the best path for myself so that I don't waste threads. I'm also very cautious of how my back looks. This is my back. One thing that I've also started doing is, I believe it's called a pin stitch, where we anchor our threads from the front. I find it's very easy to do with Lugana. I find it a little bit more difficult with linen, and it's very easy to do with Aida. And I enjoy that. So really the only threads that I carry, and I only carry maybe 3 stitches on my back, is when I finish. So, but this is my back. And the reason I try to keep things somewhat neat, I'm not going to lie, there is a bubble on the back of here somewhere. I got a knot in my thread and I couldn't get it out, so luckily it worked in, and it worked into the back. But I try to do this just because I don't want it bumpy. Years ago, when I used to frame my pieces, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people did this too, we used sticky board, and we just plopped our piece on there and folded over the sides and jammed it into a frame. Now when I do my finishing, I do like to put a little bit of quilt batting behind there just to give it a little bit of dimension. So I just want it to be a little bit more soft. Now, again, I can't say it enough how much I love this stitch. And I know tonight I will be stitching on it again and again and again and again. Let me show you the bag. I do make project bags, and I will in January have some in my Etsy shop, because yes, I do have an Etsy. Right now I'm going through some physical things. This is my bag. This is Lori Holt fabric. This is scrap from my stash. I had a friend give me this little piece in the middle here. They were in a little package to make mug rugs. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to pop it in there. Okay. So I use, let me pull this out of here. I made myself a little thread bed, which I generally don't use thread beds, but I made it. I do have a pocket on the inside here. I also have a Lori Holt crocheted flower and some trim. So this is something that, you know, obviously I made myself, and I will be putting quite a few bags into my Etsy shop come January. One of the reasons, as I said, I'm having a little bit of a health issue. I was recently diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had surgery a week ago. Ladies, please do not put off getting your mammograms. My breast cancer was discovered on a routine mammogram. It was devastating to me, frightening. I can't even tell you all the emotions I've been through. I've been told it was found early. Okay, I did have surgery. I have a follow-up appointment this week. I will also be going through radiation, and I will have to go on a medication. But it's been, I don't even know what to say. There is no history of breast cancer in my family. It was a complete and utter shock. It has shaken me to the core. Okay, so I've had to take a step back a little bit this past couple of months, even with quilting for my clients, because to be very honest, I can't focus. I can't focus on large projects, which is why I have been really focusing on cross stitch, and this one mostly, this and the Gobbletons. It's very comforting to me to have very detailed work. Now remember, I told you I was a seamstress, and I used to hand sew beads on wedding dresses. So I am used to very fine-tuned work and very structured in a sense, because, you know, putting beads on applique, you're outlining and making sure things are even. So looking at some of these cross stitch patterns and things that I'm doing, I'm able to take these little bitty motifs, okay, these itty bitty motifs, and focus on them one at a time. And if I need to say to myself, okay, look, just get through this little motif and then go take a break, I can do that. Okay, so ladies, please, please, please do not put off getting your mammogram. I did for a few years, and now I sit here and wonder, could this have been caught earlier, even earlier than what it was? Thankfully, I believe everything has been taken care of, and I know moving forward I will be much more vigilant with my health. So that's my PSA to you, and I hope you please listen, okay? So those are just some of my whips, and I'm going to show more in future episodes. I'm going to show you one finished object here. I started this back in September 14th actually, and it is called Rhythm of the Needle, and it was a complimentary chart from Sherry, the Colorado cross stitcher. Now, we know Sherry, we love her website, we love her videos. I love watching them because she always talks about what she's working on. She always brings in a few things, you know, like new to her type things, and then she talks about her shop. And I enjoy listening to her. So she offered this Rhythm of the Needle, and this was a super quick stitch, okay? I think this took me maybe 2 nights. So what I did was I stitched this on a piece of Lugana. And again, I do apologize if this is reading to you backwards, because as I said, I'm not sure how this is going to come across. So this I'm turning into a little band, right? And it says, in the rhythm of the needle, there is peace for the soul. And that is what I have been finding lately. I'm not going to lie, that I try to keep my brain from thinking, you have cancer, okay? Or you had cancer. It's very frightening. And anything that I can focus on for any length of time that takes me away from that, because that is now going to be my new normal and I have to live with that. Anything that I can find that can keep me from thinking, right, and help me focus on the peace in my soul, I'm going to do. So I turned this into a band, okay? Now I found this piece at Hobby Lobby. It was on clearance, or maybe it was on sale, $7, okay? And it had a piece of fabric around here that said "So Blessed" or something like that. I don't even remember what it was. I took it off. Made me laugh because this is really just a piece of PVC piping, right? I took, this is called Chestnut. It's craft paint. I believe I got it from Joann's. I literally splotched some on a paper towel and just wiped this because it was a lighter brown and it didn't look nice against my fabric. So I finished 3 sides of this little band here, and I hand stitched just a straight stitch along the top here and the bottom, and then you can see the side here. So I used the same colors that I used in this border here, which is a red, a green, and a gold. And I know you really can't see the gold within this stitching here, but there is gold in the middle. So I just folded my fabric under and did a running stitch. And you can see that I had hardly anything left to stitch that running stitch down. But that's okay. I'm okay with this. I'm going to take a piece of natural color batting because this Lugana is a little bit more of an open weave. So I will put a little piece of batting under here, and then I'm going to take some fabric and cover the top, and I more than likely will use one of my Kim Deal prints in maybe reds or greens or whatever. I don't know. We'll see what happens when I go downstairs and see what fabric is going to look the best on here. And then I will use this as a decorative pin cushion. Now I generally don't use counting pins or decorative pins. I do have a couple, but I don't generally use counting pins because if I need to count holes in my linen or whatever, there's always a straight pin around. And I find that a lighter straight pin works a little bit better on my linen. It doesn't make it flop. So, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to look for some pretties to put on the top of this when I get it done. So this is my finish. And then, as I said again, it's called Rhythm of the Needle. It is a free chart by Sherry Colorado Cross Stitcher. I don't know if that spool is still available from Hobby Lobby, but that's where I found it. And then I have one final finish. And if you excuse me for just a moment, what I was going to show you is what I knocked off of my table. So excuse me. And yes, I could have paused it, but I didn't. So this next piece that I have fully finished, as I said, I do use my book of days. Now, I have been going through this health issue for a couple months now. So I can show you that back in September, before all of this transpired, or at the start of when it transpired, I was very good about keeping my book and putting in my stickers. Now I do know that some of the shops are taking pre-orders for the 2025 book, and I will be ordering mine more than likely from 123 Stitch. And honestly, the reason I go to 123 Stitch is their shipping rates. They're very low. Not that I don't order from Fat Quarter Shop, because I do that too. And of course, you know, if you're going to order something for $20, you may as well spend $80 and get free shipping. Oh gosh, right? That's a whole other rabbit hole we can go down. So here's my October. You can see where I didn't even get my stickers in because of what I was going through. And then November is even a little bit less. But what you can see on the majority of my days is where I've written Americana Red, because that is what I have stitched on the most. Now, one of the things that I do with some of my fully finished items that are small enough that I can't put my library card on the back, I put it in the book. Okay, I have a few things that I finished this year that are small enough that I can't put the cards on there. I did, if anybody follows Barbara Anna Designs, she's got beautiful things, doesn't she, with the colors that she does. In the, it was in the Punch Needle Primitive, oh, let me see, it was in the fall 22, so fall of 22. She had something called Samhain Dreams. I might be pronouncing that wrong. I don't know. It was a little kitty cat. Looked like it was done for Halloween. So I stitched that up and finished it, and I took it to my daughter when I went to visit her in September. My daughter lives downstate on Long Island. So I took that little stitch for her. So obviously, you know, I wanted to keep the cards, so I remembered that I did it. I also stitched some Lori Holt cards. Everybody knows that follows Lori Holt, especially her cross stitching, knows that she has what are called stitch cards. And they're very tiny little stitches. They might even be 2.5 by 2.5 or 3 by 3. Again, it depends on what size Aida or Lugana or whatever it is that you're going to be stitching on. Clearly, you can make them bigger if you're using like a 10 count Aida, right? So for Halloween, and honestly, I just put them away today. I did a cat, a pumpkin, the one that says October 31, and then witch's hat. So obviously I did them tiny. I already put them away, packed them away for the fall, for Halloween. So I have my stitch card to remind me that I made those. I do have some that I am working on for the fall. I have not brought those out to show you, maybe when I get a couple of them done. Okay. And then lastly, I did what's called Pumpkin Topiary, and it was by Scissor Tail Designs. Now, this was a really quick stitch, and I fully finished this. The pattern also had a small pumpkin that you could have stitched, and honestly, I cut the fabric for it and then just forgot to stitch it. So there's that. So I finished this by myself. I generally do all of my own finishing and my own framing. I do have a couple pieces that I'm working on that I am contemplating taking to have it framed. But I'm hearing some things about local places that do framing. And I'm also hearing that people are taking their stitches in and having frames made and then bringing them home and finishing themselves. And I'm very comfortable with finishing my own projects. So this, as I said, was a really quick stitch. I did substitute some of the colors for some of the DMCs, and I stitched it on 25 count vintage cloth Lugana by Lori Holt. And the reason I chose that was because I really liked how the colors looked on the fabric. Now, as I said, I did fully finish this myself. Now, this frame is literally a cheap plastic picture frame. Might have been 50 cents, might have been $1. I don't know. It's very, very flimsy. So what I did, you can see that I laced it. And I know I mentioned before that back in the 80s and 90s, when we finished our pieces, we used sticky board and we just mounted them. When I was beginning to watch Flosstube videos, and I went and not only did I watch all of Brenda and Laura, I watched all of Lori Holt's, and she did a video on lacing. And I thought, wow, that's easy. I can sew, right? So at the time, whatever I was working on, I don't even remember anymore. I said, you know, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try lacing. So I did. And it's very easy. It's a little time consuming, but I did lace this. And what I used was the actual cardboard from this picture frame. Now, I did put a little bit of batting, again, because it gives it dimension. And I like that. I like the look of this now as compared to what it looked like when we did our mounting years ago, okay? I like it pops a little bit. So I had some ribbon, and then I just glued on some greenery. And if you did what I did in the 80s and 90s and bought all of the silk flowers, you still have greenery, right? The other thing that I do, and I encourage you all to do this too, label your work, please. On this tiny piece, I don't know if you can see it down here in the corner, there's a letter B, B for Barb. I also have way too many charms, year charms. I have a bunch from 2023. So listen, if you finished some projects in 2023 and you want a little charm that says 2023, message me. Also for 2024, because trust me, I will not finish as many pieces as I have charms. Okay, so I did get them on Amazon. They do come in different colors, like the antique, the gold, the silver. Very inexpensive, and I will be doing it again for 2025. They're not all that too big. You can see there. And I do kind of try to put them off somewhere in the corner. They're great for those little pillow finishes, those little Lori Holt stitch cards. I stitched them on the back, you know. I do like to date my pieces, and I know that when I finish my Americana Red, I know I'm going to be putting in the year and my initials. And I believe I'm going to do it under this area here where the arrows are, because like I said, I'm going to be taking out all of these cherries and moving things around. So I'm going to have some room there. So on pieces like this, on my larger pieces, on my samplers, I will stitch the year in. On the smaller pieces, I will use the charm. And again, whatever works for you, okay? It's your cross stitch. It's something that you're going to enjoy. Don't overthink it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't, because you can, right? These are, again, your pieces to enjoy. This little thing, as I said, I remember where I was stitching this. My husband recently had eye surgery, and I was stitching this there because it was something that was quick. The pattern was very easy to follow. I could do a little bit of what I did was I would work the center design and then outline, and then I could fill in, right? I do like to look at the pieces that I'm working on and have some type of a stitching path, just so I can plan this out in my mind and say, oh, okay, what am I going to do next? What colors am I going to need? This is, I keep going back to this Americana Red. This is the first time that I have done a stitch in all in one color. Oh, let me tell you, I just love this. This is just resonating with me so much. And I know you really can't see very much of a change in the color of the threads. And I'm hoping that once I frame it, and I will be framing this myself, I will be, I more than likely will give it a try to go to either Hobby Lobby or Michael's or whatever and order a frame, because I don't think that there's going to be a ready-made frame that's going to fit this. And that's going to be okay too, right? So that's just going to be a different experience. But I know that I can tell you already that I will put a piece of batting behind it. I know some people say to only use 100% cotton batting because of the polyester might wear your fabric. I do know that that's a thing in quilts, because not only am I a long arm quilter, I also collect antique quilts. And as a matter of fact, I have one hanging outside on the line today that I have washed. Yes, I washed it in my washer. It's okay. She's okay. But she does have some of the quilts that I have found and use. And I do use these. I will use antique quilts on my bed. Sometimes I repair them, and most times I don't. And the reason I don't is because it redates the quilt. If you have a quilt that was made in 1920 and you put fabric from 2025, you have now redated that quilt to 2020. Did I say 2025? To 2024. You have redated the quilt. So the majority of quilts that I have that are antique quilts, I will wash and I will use as is, unless I need to do some hand stitching to fix a seam. But anyway, getting back to the polyester, yes, polyester will wear your fabrics a little bit differently, but in all honesty, on some of my stitched pieces, if I use a cotton poly batting, 80-20, I use 80-20 batting most often, it is not going to degrade in my lifetime. Okay. Well, I did it. I finished. I have no idea how long this is. I appreciate it if you have sat here with me and listened to me babble. I am also very thankful that my dogs have not barked, because I put them in another room and closed the blinds in the room. So the young one, my young one, he is 1.5 years. He's still very much a puppy at 95 pounds. He barks at everything, right? And then he gets the 9-year-old going. So they are in there taking their little doggy nap for the afternoon. And I'm very much appreciative that they have not interrupted me. So again, thank you so much for hanging with me. If you are interested in anything that I have stitched or have any questions, I would be very happy to answer them for you. You can leave me comments below. I would love it if you would subscribe and follow. I am unsure as to when my next video will be. Today is November 19th, 2024. We are coming into Thanksgiving. I will have family home for Thanksgiving. My daughter will be in town. I have 2 of my sons who live in town, and I expect to have 5 of my 6 grandchildren here. So we will probably be 11 at the table for Thanksgiving. And I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a very, very thankful Thanksgiving for me. And we're just going to leave it right there. We will be getting into Christmas and decorating. I can tell you that the day after Thanksgiving, I will bring up my 30 plus tubs. Feels like 30 plus tubs. I don't even know how many tubs of Christmas decorations I have. But I normally put up 4 trees. This year I'll be putting up a 5th tree that my youngest grandson, he's 5. He's going to come over and help decorate it. As I said, I do have 6 grandchildren. They range in age from 11 to 2. The 2 younger girls that are 2, one is going to be 3 in a few weeks, and the other will be 3 in a few months. So they're very close. So yeah, once we get into Christmas, you'll see things decorated a little bit differently here. I go overboard. I decorate everything. I'm not going to lie. Okay. I've been collecting Christmas decorations for years, and it is what it is. I'm not apologizing. So I wish you all very well. I hope you have a great day. Continue to stitch. Feel free to hunt for me on Instagram. I do post more on TikTok. Because I just find that, I can get videos out rather quickly. Yeah, like I said, I do have a Facebook page for my business. I also have an Etsy, but I haven't really put anything into Etsy since they made their changes. But I do know that come the first of the year, once everything settles down, I will be doing project bags and things like that. I have a lot of antique fabrics and a lot of ideas for some project bags. I don't do anything fancy. My bags, I don't use the plastic on the front. Personally, I'm not a fan of that. I don't like how it sticks, okay? But my project bags, I usually zipper them at the top, or I also have some that are going to zipper here. So, again, I know I've rambled. I appreciate everybody that's followed along. And again, if you have any questions, comments, please feel free. And I hope you have a marvelous day stitching. And I will see you soon. Bye for now.